Welcome back, Deep Divers. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It really helps us out. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a truly mind-bending question.
Oh, yeah?
What if Donald Trump
Okay.
had led the Democrats
Interesting.
instead of that whole Republican path he took? To help us unpack this alternate reality, we turned to AI and fed it a mountain of information about Trump's early life, his political positions, and the dynamics of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thought experiment, isn't it? Especially when you consider that Trump wasn't always the red-blooded Republican we know today.
Right.
Back in the 80s and 90s, he was actually a registered Democrat. And even flirted with running for president on the Reform Party ticket in 2000.
Right. It's easy to forget that part of his story.
Yeah.
So what did the AI tell us about those early Democrat days? Was he just playing the field, or did he genuinely align with some of their core values?
Well, according to the AI's analysis, there's evidence to suggest that Trump's early political leanings weren't entirely superficial. For instance, he once expressed support for universal health care,
Oh, wow.
a position generally associated with the left side of the political spectrum.
Okay.
He also voiced support for a one-time wealth tax on the super rich,
Wow.
which definitely raised some eyebrows.
A wealth tax from the Donald Trump. That's certainly not something you'd hear from him today.
Exactly. It seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The AI also highlighted his connections with prominent Democrats like the Clintons during that period. So it's not a complete stretch to imagine him staying on that side of the political fence.
Okay, so there's a foundation there, at least in his early years. But how would his signature populist rhetoric, the drain the swamp, the forgotten man, have played out with a Democratic audience?
That's where it gets really intriguing. Remember, Trump's core message was always about shaking up the system, challenging the establishment, and fighting for the little guy.
Right.
That kind of message could resonate with certain segments of the Democratic base, particularly those who felt left behind by globalization or disillusioned with the party elite.
So you're saying he could have tapped into that same sense of economic anxiety and frustration just from a different angle?
Precisely. Imagine Trump on the Democratic primary stage, railing against Wall Street greed, corporate power, and those out-of-touch politicians who've lost sight of the working class. It wouldn't be that different from his Republican playbook, just aimed at a new target.
I can almost see it now. Trump in a blue tie giving those fiery speeches about how he's the only one who can truly understand the struggles of the working class because he's been there in the trenches of the business world.
Right. He could position himself as the billionaire who knows the system's flaws from the inside and is uniquely qualified to fix them for the benefit of ordinary Americans.
It's a powerful image for sure. But let's get down to brass tacks. What would a Democratic Trump agenda actually look like? Would it be a complete 180 from his Republican policies, or would there be some surprising overlaps?
That's what the AI helped us explore. It analyzed Trump's stated positions and actions, both past and present, and extrapolated how they might have manifested in a Democratic context.
So what did it find? Would we see Trump care instead of Obamacare? Trump eco-cities sprouting up across the country?
Well, let's start with economics, which was always a central theme for Trump. The AI suggests that a Democratic Trump might have doubled down on economic nationalism,
Okay.
but with a different set of tools.
Okay.
Instead of relying solely on tariffs, which are often seen as protectionist and harmful to consumers, he might have pushed for stronger regulations against outsourcing tax incentives for companies that keep jobs in America, and even investments in worker retraining programs.
Interesting. So a more nuanced approach to protecting American jobs and industries.
Exactly. And remember that wealth tax he once supported. The AI suggests that a Democratic Trump might have revived that idea, framing it as a way to level the playing field and ensure that the super rich pay their fair share.
Okay.
Of course, knowing Trump, there might have been some creative loopholes involved.
Maybe a special exemption for brilliant businessmen
Yeah.
who create jobs. I can totally see him pulling something like that.
It wouldn't be out of character, would it? But beyond the theatrics, the AI suggests that a Democratic Trump's economic agenda might have had some surprising appeal to both progressives and moderates within the party. It's that mix of populism and pragmatism that could have made him a formidable force in Democratic politics.
So we've got economic nationalism with a Democratic twist. But what about other key issues? How would a Democratic Trump approach things like healthcare, immigration, and foreign policy? Would he become a champion for progressive causes? Or would his core beliefs have remained largely unchanged, just packaged differently?
That's what we'll delve into next. The AI uncovered some fascinating possibilities, including how Trump might have approached healthcare, one of the most contentious issues in American politics. Get ready, because things are about to get really interesting.
Welcome back. Before we move on, I think it's important to remember that we're talking about a hypothetical scenario here. This isn't about endorsing or condemning Trump's actions or beliefs. It's about using AI to explore a what if and see what insights we can uncover. You're absolutely right. It's all about exploring possibilities and getting you thinking right. So let's dive back in. You were about to tell us about healthcare. How would a Democratic Trump have tackled that hot button issue? Would he have gone full-on progressive and embraced something like Medicare for all?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. The AI highlighted Trump's previous statements supporting universal health care. Remember, this was before he became a Republican.
Right back when he was hanging out with the Clintons and exploring a presidential run as a Reform Party candidate.
Exactly. So the AI suggests that a Democratic Trump might have actually pushed for a universal health care system. Imagine that, Trump care for all. Of course, it wouldn't be Medicare for all as we know it. It would probably be more market-driven with a focus on private insurers and competition. But the core idea of ensuring everyone has access to affordable health care would be there.
I can already picture the campaign ads. Trump standing in front of a giant American flag promising to deliver the best, most beautiful healthcare system the world has ever seen. It's kind of scary how easy that is to imagine.
And that's the thing about Trump. He's a master of branding and persuasion. He knows how to tap into people's hopes and fears. So even if the details of Trump Care were different from what progressives wanted, he might have been able to sell it to a large segment of the Democratic base, especially those who are frustrated with the existing system.
It's fascinating to think about how he might have navigated those different factions within the Democratic Party. You've got the progressives pushing for bold systemic change, and the moderates who are more cautious and pragmatic. How would Trump, with his larger-than-life personality and tendency to go rogue, have managed those competing interests?
Well, the AI suggests that it would have been a constant balancing act. On the one hand, Trump might have tried to appease the progressives by embracing some of their rhetoric and supporting policies like universal health care. But on the other hand, he's also a pragmatist who understands the art of the deal. He wouldn't want to alienate the moderates or the Democratic establishment entirely.
So it would have been a constant push and pull, with Trump trying to keep everyone happy while also staying true to his own populist instincts.
Exactly. And that's where things could have gotten really messy. Remember, Trump isn't exactly known for his patience or his ability to compromise. If he felt like the progressives were pushing him too far, he might have lashed out, creating even more division within the party.
It's easy to imagine him going on a Twitter rampage, attacking his own party members and calling them radical leftists or enemies of the people. It wouldn't be that different from how he treated his Republican opponents.
And that's what makes this whole scenario so fascinating. It forces us to consider the complexities of leadership, the challenges of uniting a diverse coalition, and the unpredictable nature of someone like Trump operating within a system that values compromise and consensus building.
Okay, we've talked about healthcare and the internal dynamics of the Democratic Party.
Hmm.
But what about immigration, a topic that was central to Trump's rise as a Republican? Would a Democratic Trump have softened his stance, or would he have found a way to appeal to his base while still advocating for stricter border control?
That's a great question, and one that the AI really grappled with. Remember, Trump's views on immigration have always been complex. He's spoken about the need for a big, beautiful wall and a crackdown on illegal immigration. But he's also expressed sympathy for dreamers and acknowledged the contributions of immigrants to the American economy.
So how would those seemingly conflicting viewpoints have played out in a Democratic context? Would he have been able to reconcile those different perspectives?
The AI suggests that a Democratic Trump might have taken a more nuanced approach, focusing on border security as a matter of national security and economic fairness. He might have argued that a secure border is necessary to protect American jobs and wages and prevent the exploitation of undocumented workers.
So instead of demonizing immigrants, he might have framed the issue in terms of protecting American workers.
Exactly. He might have even tried to appeal to the Democratic base by offering a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants who meet certain criteria, like paying taxes and learning English. It would be a way of appealing to both his base and the more progressive wing of the party.
It's a clever strategy for sure, but would it have been enough to convince skeptical Democrats that he was genuinely committed to a fair and humane immigration system?
That's a tough question. Remember, actions speak louder than words. Even if Trump had moderated his rhetoric and offered some concessions, many Democrats would likely remain wary of his motives, especially given his past statements and actions.
It's clear that immigration would have been a tough issue for a Democratic Trump to navigate. It would have required a delicate balancing act trying to appease different factions within the party, while also staying true to his own beliefs and appealing to his base.
Absolutely. And that's just one example of the challenges he would have faced as a leader of the Democratic Party. But we've only scratched the surface. Let's move on to foreign policy. How would a Democratic Trump have approached America's role in the world? Would he have been a dove or a hawk? An isolationist or an interventionist?
You're right, we can't leave foreign policy out of the equation. This is where Trump's America First rhetoric really came into play as a Republican. So how would that have translated in a Democratic context? Would he have been pushing for military intervention or pulling back from global engagements?
Well, the AI suggests that a Democratic Trump's foreign policy might have surprised a lot of people. While he might have retained some of his America First rhetoric, the emphasis might have shifted from military might to economic diplomacy. He might have argued that instead of spending trillions of dollars on wars in the Middle East, the U.S. should be investing in its own infrastructure, education, and healthcare.
So a more inward-looking approach focused on strengthening America from within.
Exactly. He might have also taken a more skeptical view of free trade agreements, arguing that they often benefit corporations at the expense of American workers. And he might have pushed for stronger environmental regulations, framing it as a way to protect the planet and create green jobs in America.
It sounds like he would have been more aligned with progressive wing of the party on those issues.
On those issues, yes. But there would still be areas of significant disagreement. For example, the AI suggests that a Democratic Trump might have remained skeptical of international institutions like the United Nations and NATO, seeing them as bureaucratic and ineffective. He might have also continued to cultivate relationships with authoritarian leaders like Vladimir Putin, believing that he could strike better deals with them than with traditional allies.
That would certainly have created some tension within the Democratic Party, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Imagine the uproar if a Democratic president was seen as cozying up to dictators and undermining democratic norms. It would have been a constant source of conflict and controversy.
It sounds like even if Trump had led the Democrats, he would have faced many of the same challenges and criticisms that he did as a Republican. He might have found common ground with Democrats on some issues, but his personality, his style, and some of his core beliefs would likely have remained unchanged, leading to friction and division within the party.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's not just about the policies, it's about the person. And Trump, with his unique blend of charisma, populism, and unpredictability, would have been a disruptive force in any political party.
Well, Deep Divers, we've explored the hypothetical world of a Democratic Donald Trump, analyzing how his policies, his personality, and his approach to leadership might have played out in a different political context. But the big question remains, would he have been more successful as a Democrat? Would he have been able to achieve his goals and unite the party? Or would he have faced even more resistance and opposition?
That's what we'll explore in our final segment. Get ready for some more mind-bending insights from the AI as we delve into the potential outcomes of this alternate reality.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been on quite a journey today, haven't we? Exploring the what-ifs and maybes of a Democratic Donald Trump.
We've seen how his policies might have shifted,
Right.
his rhetoric recalibrated,
Yeah.
and his relationship with the Democratic base a constant tightrope walk.
But now for the million-dollar question, the one that's been looming over this entire deep dive. Would a Democratic Trump have actually been more successful? Would he have achieved his goals, faced more opposition, or just created a different flavor of chaos? What did the AI have to say about that?
That's where the AI's analysis gets really interesting. It suggests that a Democratic Trump might have actually had an easier time passing certain policies,
Oh, really?
particularly those with some bipartisan support.
Okay.
Think infrastructure spending,
Right.
trade, deals with a focus on worker protections,
Okay.
even some aspects of climate change legislation.
Wait, really? A Democratic Trump pushing for climate action? That's not something I would have ever predicted.
It might sound counterintuitive, but remember, Trump's always been pragmatic. He understands the art of the deal, and he's not afraid to break with his party if it serves his interests. So if he saw a political advantage in embracing certain climate-friendly policies, maybe as a way to create jobs or boost American manufacturing, he might have gone for it.
So you're saying he might have been able to bridge the partisan divide on some issues. That's a pretty bold claim.
It is. But the AI points to historical examples of presidents who defied expectations and managed to get things done by working across the aisle. Think about Nixon going to China.
Right.
Or Clinton signing NAFTA.
Yeah.
It's not impossible.
Okay. I'm starting to see how it could have worked.
Yeah.
But let's not forget about the opposition. He would have faced pushback, not just from Republicans, but also from within his own party.
Absolutely. The AI suggests that a Democratic Trump would have faced a constant uphill battle trying to balance the demands of the progressive wing with the concerns of moderates and the party establishment. It wouldn't have been easy, and it might have led to some very public and very messy feuds.
So more Twitter wars, more name-calling, more of that signature Trumpian chaos.
Potentially. But remember, chaos can sometimes be a catalyst for change. Trump's willingness to shake things up, to break norms and challenge the status quo might have actually worked in his favor in some cases. It might have forced the Democratic Party to confront some of its own internal contradictions and to rethink its approach to certain issues.
That's an interesting perspective. So not all chaos is bad chaos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need a disruptor to shake things up, to force people out of their comfort zones, and to make them see things from a different angle. And that's what a Democratic Trump might have done. He might have been a force for both progress and division, a leader who could unite and alienate at the same time.
It's mind-boggling to think about all the different scenarios that could have played out if Trump had taken a different path.
It is. But that's the beauty of hypothetical explorations like this. They allow us to step outside of our preconceived notions, to challenge our assumptions, and to consider possibilities that we might not have otherwise entertained.
And who knows, maybe somewhere in a parallel universe, there's a Democratic Donald Trump who's actually making it all work.
Maybe he's brokering peace deals and acting sweeping climate legislation and winning over the hearts and minds of both Democrats and Republicans alike.
Or maybe he's just tweeting up a storm and causing even more chaos than we can imagine.
Either way, it's a fascinating thought experiment. One that reminds us of the complexities of leadership, the power of personality, and the unpredictable nature of politics.
Well said, deep divers. We've reached the end of our deep dive into the hypothetical world of a Democratic Donald Trump. We've explored the possibilities, the challenges, and the potential outcomes. But ultimately, the answer to the question of whether he would have been more successful remains elusive.
It's up to you to decide. What do you think? Would a Democratic Trump have been a force for good, a chaotic disruptor, or something in between?
Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this mind-bending exploration, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends.
Until next time, keep diving deep.